morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg and it's the 31st day of January 2024. Wow, is this month gone fast? It's amazing, isn't it? Have you guys been watching the crazy stuff in the news? We're going to go there later, but first I want to bring on my guest and we're going to talk about what the meeting this weekend for the U.S. Taxpayers Party, which is the Constitution Party in the state of Michigan. And we had a wonderful time. I had a guy from the area call me yesterday, and he said, I had the best time at that meeting. And he said, I can't believe how much I learned. So I think we were successful with that. We had some people that joined, and I'm going to tell you right now what I was really impacted with, because all of us were there this weekend. That we had about 100 people there, which was as many as Republicans had in their last few meetings to determine the fate of the state of Michigan, our elections. 100 people showed up to their meetings to determine who the chair was or who wasn't, and they're still fighting about it and they're getting nowhere. Well, I tell you what, we had a great meeting. It was wonderful. It really was a lot of fun, and I'm telling you what, the people there were just amazing, wonderful, educated, and conducted themselves as statesmen. All but one. I'll throw that one in there because I'm going to eviscerate this guy if he pops his head up again. But at any rate, we had a really nice time. What say you guys? What was your thoughts on the meeting, Bill?
Yeah, so this was our quarterly meeting in January here. We meet every quarter across the state. And I'm not saying we're not going to meet more than that either. There's other events in the works that we're planning on. So, yeah, to see that many people, it's been a long time, and people are starting to wake up to this nonsense. We all sit around, we talk to our family, we talk to our friends about the issues at hand, the corruption that we see, the lack of government that we had set up, and it's all because we allow this to happen. Each country has a government that it deserves, and it's because we allow it that we have it. And these people have finally started to wake up a little bit. I don't expect everybody to get involved, but the plain message was throughout all of our speakers that everybody can do something, and that is what we have to do to be able to restore the principles of the nation that the people have founded. So it was very encouraging to see. Darleaf gave a great presentation on the state's militia. It's something I've heard before. I've talked to them before, but he did a very good job on laying that out in a very short time. We also had Paul Urban there from Referendums in Michigan, and several petitions that he had brought with him. These men are all doing something, and it's up to each one of us as well, those here and those listening, to do something that we can. Everybody has a skill set. Everybody has a talent that we've been given. It's what are we using it for? I mean, you look back through history and the blood that was paid from our brothers and our sisters of old time to establish what we have. A lot of people are saying that they're willing to die for this country. Right? They'd be willing to take a bullet for this country. But how many people are willing to live for it? What are we doing with our lives that matters here? Because once you're gone, you're gone. It's only the memories and the legends that you leave behind to your posterity. So what are we actually doing now? That's what needs to be discussed more than anything. We can talk about the problems, and when we get big groups of people together, it's a lot like an echo chamber. Everybody's saying the same things, yet are we actually bringing justice that guards our liberty, as is written above the Supreme Court? Are we going that route? Are we dedicated to that principle alone to restore our liberties? So, yeah, we had close to 100 people, like you said, Donna, and we had a lot of great giveaways. Even Darleaf brought a bunch of videos that he donated. We gave all those away. I don't know how many total we had, but there was probably a couple $1,000s worth of material that was all donated that we were able to just give away to people who came. So If that's an
We
encouragement.
provided a meal for everyone. So, we're the party of being there to help, not just to sit there with our hands out as a bunch of beggars. We want people to work with us and help each other.
That's right. That's right. We'd rather have workers than money supporters, right? And it does take money to do certain things. I get it, but
Minimal.
when we have people and hands to do the work, it relieves a lot of the stress from the people currently doing it. So I encourage everybody to get involved because we all need it, right? We're not going to do this alone.
Well, when you see the number of people that are actually keeping this party on the ballot, how few of the workers there really are that have pretty much committed everything we have to keeping this party on the ballot in order to be another option. We don't have to take all the seats, but we're a great disruptor. All we need to do is take a few of them and we can interrupt their plan. And this comes back to this whole groupthink mentality that goes in these parties. I'm telling you what, I'm living to see the abolishment of the political parties, or the ability to have many, many, many political parties, but no money involved in it, so that it's not pay to play to get a job, because that's exactly what's going on here. We absolutely need to clean this up, because there's no integrity right now in our election systems or in campaigning and doing it with any morals or ethics. It's all about money. It's a huge money laundering industry. The entire political field is. And I would like to see it abolished as we see it today, and replaced with a system that actually is representative of the people, not just representative of the money. And I think there's some really quick ways to do that. But and pretty much everybody in the Constitution Party that I know feels pretty similarly to this, that the political parties, especially the two-party system, the uniparty, which is really it's one party, they're working together to protect their power structure. They sure as heck don't want to see the Constitution Party have the traction, but it's okay, because what's happening is God's tapping people out as individuals to stand with their conscience, not to just pick the lesser of the two evils, because they're both evil and they're both working together. It's all their system is based on talking points which mislead. And it's like people say, well, watch, they look good until they got in, they got corrupted. Don't be a fool. This whole thing is corrupted before they got in. They're selected, they're placed, they're puppets. And it's Satan's hand himself that's going right up into the behind of those puppets and making them talk. And it's like, yeah, and honestly, anybody that stands with that kind of a system is guilty of what they're doing. They're complicit. We don't want to be complicit. We want to make the decisions that are right, based on truth and integrity, not just on this fear mongering crap that's go along to get along stuff. Don't want to step out. Don't want to do the right thing. Don't want to cause a problem or disruption. Yeah, we do. We want to cause a disruption to this incredibly evil system that has been working against we the people. If they actually could do something, they would have. They're not. It's like having Biden back in after 50 years. What do we think we're going to get? So my whole thing is, it's time to vote, in the state of Michigan, vote all incumbents out. We need to have a clean slate. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'd like to see the membership of the USTPM, the U.S. Taxpayers Party here, the Constitution Party, just explode. And on a local level, and have people that have never been in politics step up and say, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing exactly, but I'm willing to do what I can to help. That's what needs to happen.
Yep. That's a perfect layout of what needs to happen there. So on disruption, how about we get started and we disrupt things a little bit here this morning?
Yeah, I think we need to disrupt everything. We need to disrupt the UFO stuff coming out and call it what it is. We've got demons here that are absolutely wrecking havoc, and they work straight up for Satan, and we need to call it out for what it is, because people are being misled in a tremendous way. Whatever you believe, this evil that's upon this nation, this world, is unbelievable. And we had a talk before we got on this morning. It's time to start looking into places like North Sentinel Island and the things that have happened, not only in the islands of the Caribbean, around Michigan. This is going to be shocking for everyone. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is criminal conspiracy happening. They just added that little tagline on to shut people down. But there is such a thing as criminal conspiracy. And it's going on all around us, and we have to call it out, and it has to be addressed with an iron fist.
Yep. Oh, if you read about it, did you know the conspiracy is actually recorded in the scriptures in Jeremiah, where the people were conspiring, and what it was is actually the people who conspired against the God that led them out of Egypt, against the God that had protected them the whole way. That is the true meaning of a conspiracy. So those who would call yourself or the rest of us here conspiracy theorists, what they're actually telling you is that they are the conspirators, because those who would falsely accuse are typically the ones committing the crimes, right?
They're gaslighting.
Yep. That's usually the way it works. So,
you have those scriptures that you could pull up for them?
Yeah, I can. Give me just a minute here. I don't know that one off the top of my head.
Well, the term conspiracy theorist was, if I remember right, coined by the CIA.
Yeah, the clowns in America.
Yep.
It's secret societies. That's why they've killed so many people, is to shut them down. And it's our own government that's complicit in the crimes. And we're going to talk about this, what happened in Iraq, because people need to understand Iraq, Babylon, Baghdad, the reason why we really went in there during the Gulf Wars. It's not what they're telling us.
Yeah, I just looked it up. So conspiracy theory as a term was, looks like, popularized by the CIA for anyone that was questioning the official narrative of JFK's assassination.
Yep, that's where it began in the States here. And Jeremiah 11:9 is where that comes up in Scripture, where it says, "And the Lord said unto me," speaking of Jeremiah, "a conspiracy has been found among the men of Judah and among the inhabitants of Jerusalem. They have turned back to the iniquities of their forefathers, who refused to hear my words, and they've gone after other gods to serve them." That is the base of a conspiracy.
I think too, to look at it, Satan is an angel, is the angel of light. I mean, he's a deceiver. And this is, you know what I mean? It's like he's not going to come necessarily with the horns and the red face and the fangs and that sort of thing. He's going to come with a little snaky tongue. And I got a joke. I'm a lousy joke teller, but I'll tell you this joke. All right. This guy dies, and he goes up to the pearly gates, and he meets God, and God says, "Well, which way do you want to go?" And he says, which is not representative of the scripture. I know this is a joke. So anyhow, he says, "Well," he said, "I think I want to see," he said, let's you want to see heaven and hell and compare? You can compare and then come back and we'll have a discussion." So he goes, "I want to see what hell's like." So he goes down to hell, and he starts looking around, and man, it's like a disco party down there. They're having a great time. People, every vice you ever wanted was down there. And, there was no downside to anything. And a bunch of his friends were down there and such. And he's like, "Wow, this looks like a good thing to me." So he goes back up to God, and he says, "You know what? I think I'm going to choose hell." And God's like, "You sure? Are you really sure?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think I'm going to go choose hell." And so he goes down to hell, and all of a sudden he goes in through the door, and it's like a barren wasteland. Everything's burning. People are screaming, being tortured and such. And the guy goes, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. This isn't what I signed up for." He said, "This isn't what I saw when I came down the first time." Satan looks at him, goes, "Yeah, well, we were campaigning."
Yep. A lot of that. You can see that in the music of the culture today, and specifically more so in the late 70s and early 80s.
Taylor Swift, she's a psyop.
Yep. I mean, the music portrays hell as like a big party. They really do, and that's all to demoralize the people into forgetting
deceive
what the commands actually were and what the truth is regarding it. Once again, like Hosea says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. They don't know because they don't care to see it. They just want to believe what their idolatrous music leaders are telling them.
Yeah, it's really sad, but I think I'm getting more convicted that we really need to speak out about this, because our first and foremost job here is it's working for God, and it's a spiritual fight we're in. We can fight for the politics, because I don't think you can separate the two. It's like, we fight for our families. That's a godly a godly mission right there, but also the salvation of souls who are being deceived and destroyed. Look at the drug problem we have. Anything Satan touches, anything the evil touches, destroys, and destroys innocence, destroys lives. He is the destroyer of all things. And isn't it odd how CERN is celebrating the deity of destruction from India, that they've made it very clear who they serve, and the incantations and crap that they're trying to do of what they're doing there. It's to destroy human beings.
Well, I think you've shown that ceremony of when they opened that one tunnel on here, haven't you?
I have.
It's been a while, but yeah.
Yeah, I can look it up if you want to talk amongst yourselves a minute, because we're talking a spiritual battle that we're in right now. And
if you want to talk a conspiracy theory, being distinct from an actual conspiracy, well, it's a little hard to keep those two things separate sometimes when you start seeing piles of evidence.
Yep, that's true. And I'm glad you brought up the CIA bringing the term conspiracy theory about, because regarding, I mean, we've touched on it here, and I know you talked about it, Donna, as well, regarding JFK. It didn't take long for a lot of the people to stand up and simply say something's not right with their narrative. That was the big deal. Anytime there's a big event like that in the U.S., it's good that a handful of people rise up and say, yeah, something you're telling us ain't right here. Even Thomas Jefferson said a little rebellion is good from time to time, right? It keeps society and keeps the government in check. And the same things happen, all the big events as we've seen them in my lifetime. You got the, Oklahoma City and 9/11 and such like that. And you can keep going and going and going, but all of them, they drove the narrative so fast and so hard, you can't help but stop and look at it and say something you're saying isn't right here. It's very clear that things are hidden. And the CIA at the beginning, they had came out and said that the head of the CIA said that we will know when our disinformation campaign is complete, when everything the American people believe is a lie. That was the CIA's sole purpose.
Yep, and that questioning is incredibly important, and that's one of the things that we've strongly lack in a lot of science now.
Look at that! It just took it down on me.
Nice.
I'm gonna guess what? We're gonna do something different here, because that's funny.
That's something that I see in science, though, that the entire concept of scientific consensus on anything, I find absurd, because science needs to be able to stand up to, the questions of reproducibility. And there's so much of that right now that's going on that's like publish or perish. The papers get out there, and then they're irreproducible, and people get absolutely lambasted for even questioning the validity of some of it, because it goes against the greater narrative, and we saw that with tons of scientists, doctors, and nurses during COVID, that anything truly scientific needs to be able to stand up to scrutiny itself.
Yeah, well, that's the base of the scientific method, right?
I was just thinking the same thing.
Yep.
I learned that in like elementary school.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure they're teaching the scientific method anymore, based on the number of people that completely disregard the precepts of it.
I was challenging it in college, even with the study of evolution. They call it a fact. They'll say, well, it's a theory, but then they treat it like it's a fact. And I was challenging them, I have a thing with teachers and professors who lie to you or teach you things that aren't true. And I tend to stand up to them a little bit. And then that's what I did. Well, look, this is a theory. Why is it a theory? Because the basic fundamental of science, then it must be observable to be proven as a fact. And you cannot observe that which took place allegedly millions or billions of years ago. You can't observe that. You could test and you could theorize your testing, but you can't prove it.
See, that's not actually the video that I was thinking of. I was thinking of the one when they
the ceremony itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it a minute.
I mean, not that that's a bad one to show too, but like I said about piles of evidence earlier. But yeah, there's another really good one.
Yeah, hang on a minute.
How to open your car door while submerged underwater.
Sorry to derail this morning, guys.
In all recent automobiles makes it.
So I haven't looked into this kind of stuff in a while, but there's been some weird happenings around the world lately. For example, the potential that the human species may have been around a lot longer than we initially thought, based on these monolithic.
Yeah, it's a 3-minute one. So much symbolism in this ceremony, it's crazy.
Reminds me of the Olympics.
You remember when Elijah was calling out the prophets of Baal there in the times of King Ahab, and they were all dancing about their altar.
Yeah, tell me what this is all about, guys. I'm sorry, but, this is stuff that we're going to have to face this. And it just gets stupider and stupider.
Even if you don't understand the symbolism, because I don't understand half of it, it doesn't make me feel good. It's not like I agree with a celebration. This is
it's
what?
Just an abstract performance, right?
Well, look at all of the political type alliterations here, and you've got the Mad Hatter. You've got we could go through this one symbol at a time here, but there's the workforce, and they're finally just bowing down to the portal which they're trying to open.
But it's just purely an abstract performance, right? no
Yeah,
meaning
no.
to any of this whatsoever.
Well, it looks like when Jesus was talking about, talking to the people at Caesarea Philippi, he was on a cliff opposing a wall, and there was a hole in the wall, which they considered the goat cult. There was like four cults there, and they considered that hell itself, that hole into the wall. They considered that hell. So he was talking across the divide there and said, the gates of hell shall not prevail against you, is basically it. He's saying go right in and call it out for what it is, and do not let these people take an inch, because this is completely and utterly satanic. And they were having sexual ceremonies. They were having all kinds of religious ceremonies on there, and Jesus said the gates of hell shall not prevail against you. People take that as be afraid. No, we've got the righteousness of Christ, and they're serving a liar. And so all of this stuff that's going on is a lot deeper, I think, than what a lot of people think it is, and we need to call it out for what it is. This is Satanism. It's flat out. This is Satanism, Luciferianism, whatever you want to call it, but it has set itself against God. And I'm pretty extra sure anybody that throws in with them is going to be considered a co-conspirator.
On the other thing too is like you said about Caesarea Philippi, not being afraid to go down there and actually take everything to task for this, and the same thing with Jesus walking on water, is that the sea a lot of times was used as an allegory for hell.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Jesus went out there and walked out to Peter, it was him taking on hell and walking right out there because Peter was sinking, and it's important to remember that it's not something to be afraid of. It's something to charge in there and fix.
Yeah, Satan's a loser, and the people, the beings that follow him are a bunch of big losers too. You don't need to be afraid of it. Just the righteousness of Christ and covers all. And he's got a problem. He's got a big problem, because unfortunately there's always a remnant, and the remnant's going to be a little unwavering, because it's the power of Christ, and it's God. And we just all have to pray every day that we are not seen nor remembered, but it's only God himself that people see and remember, because human beings are flawed. But I thought this was a good discussion, because there's a lot that's coming out on the UFOs and such, and I honestly think that this is what the Bible was describing. It is the spiritual realm that we're seeing in terms that are being used other than what the Bible talks about them as.
Another example of hell or water being used, the sea specifically being used as an allegory for hell, is when Legion was cast out into the herd of pigs and they jumped off into the sea. That was yet another kind of allegory for hell, of sending them right back to where they came from.
Mm-hmm. Not welcome here. So anyhow, I thought that was an interesting thing to talk about, because there's a lot that I think we're going to see in the coming days, that if you don't have your grounding in God Almighty, it's going to be a little difficult to deal with. So anyhow.
Yeah, we talked about this before. I mean, we're not given the spirit of fear, but of power and of sound mind. And if you read in Revelation, both, I think it's 20 and the last chapter and the second to last chapter of Revelation, who are the first to be cast out to not inherit the kingdom? The first ones listed are the cowardice or the fearful. Right? That shows you and shows those around you who you are actually serving. If someone has the spirit of fear, is fearful to do and to follow the commands of our God, then they're not serving. It's as plain and simple as that. Either that or they're not educated enough to do so, in which case they'll be destroyed for it, right? We need to constantly be educated. We need to constantly be washing ourselves in the Word and maintaining the base principles of what we are to do. So
the most satanic thing that I have ever seen in person was a Pink concert. And I didn't even know the music, but a bunch of people wanted to go, and I'm like, okay, I'll go. And I walked out on it. They actually had like creatures writhing around on the stage, and a red robe type ceremony there that looks like anything you'd see in what is the Ninth Circle ceremonies. And it was crazy. I'm like going, yep, we're done with this right now. They were hacking off body parts and all sorts of things. I thought it was one of the most disgusting things that I've ever seen in my life. I got up and I walked out. I was like, I'm done. Took me only a few songs too, and I'm like, okay, if this is what people are coming to see, then I feel sorry for them that they can't even see what they're looking at. You know, it's really sad.
yeah,
Why would you want to associate with that type of people? You know, because they're not going to bring you up. They'll just drag you down.
It's a ceremony. And anybody there that participates in it is participating in a ceremony. Or you get up and you walk out and denounce it in the name, you know, and denounce it.
Yeah, they're not hiding this. They are way out in the public sector. And if you look back in the 1700s, I mean, this was considered sorcery. This was considered witchcraft. And as we know, the law says, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." That's exactly what our forefathers did. If you were engaged in this practice, the proper sentencing for such was to be put to death. They cast them out. They got them out of their land, right? So, and a lot of this stems, actually, it leads right into what we were talking about earlier, what I was going to talk about. A lot of it stems from bringing in strangers from other nations and allowing them to set up their gods, and the people of the land start serving them. Right? You can read about that in Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy. That was a constant, and all through the prophets, that was a constant reminder to God's people, is that when you allow that to happen, if you go after the other gods, if you go after and serve their gods and do what they do, then they're going to be destroyed. Right? And we're right on the brink of that as in America. We are so close to it, and that's one of the things that needs to just absolutely stop. Just simple as can be. It needs to stop. The Americans need to repent from it, and we need to start fixing that because the warnings are there for us. They're not obsolete. They're not an abstract thought. The warnings were given to us through the law and the prophets, clear as day, and that's the exact same thing we're seeing. And a lot of that stems from the illegal immigration that's happening across the border, right? We're allowing this invasion of other nations to come in, and they don't come to assimilate, to abide by our laws. In fact, a lot of them are lawless. If you read through some of the laws in the past decade, in the past 5 years even, that have been committed by illegals, you can go right online and pull it up. There are tens of thousands of documented instances of illegal immigrants violating the law. And I'm not talking just simple like traffic violation. I'm talking about criminal capital offenses. And it's the same thing that they saw going on in Old Testament times, and it's the same thing we're dealing with today. And I just happened to be thinking about that this morning, and the thought crossed my head, where in our Constitution are we to not allow illegal immigration? Does anybody know?
I don't.
So our federal constitution does not really have a clause dealing specifically with immigration itself, except for one. But we've twisted the 14th Amendment, which is no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Karen, you and I talked about that Saturday. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction equal protection of the law, right? The ACLU has done a fine job in bringing that amendment to say it deals with immigration, which it most certainly does not. It only deals with those people who are inside the United States having equal protection of the laws. That also means that you have equal judgment under the laws. You can't have one without the other, right? What they've done is they've twisted it to say that illegal immigration, they can have equal protection. They can be protected, enjoy all the freedoms. They can get all the benefits at the taxpayer's expense, not the government's expense. But they don't have to be bound by the same judgments that the law have, right? We can let them off because they were ignorant. They really didn't know. Okay?
Goes back to Satanism. It's like do what thou will,
Yep.
Albert Pike, and do what thou will, and that it doesn't matter. And that's the impetus of this, and that there's no consequences. Well, that's like the biggest lie that's ever been told to human beings, is that there's no consequences to your actions. No, there are consequences to your actions. You are going to be held accountable for every word that's come out of your mouth, as well as as well. And I mean, we need to truly remember that you can't just continue to do things like, let's just say that somebody who's a murderer gets saved. Okay, well, they can't just say, well, I'm saved, I got to pass, Jesus forgives all my sins, and go out and keep murdering again. I think that's not okay. But that doesn't even go to the degree of murder. I mean, that's everything. We need to be introspective on our lives, and realize that there's consequences to what we do.
Yep, that's absolutely correct.
I would think that the fight against illegal immigration, per the national constitution, technically should fall under the state militia's assigned duties to protect against invasion.
Don't get ahead of me, Ralph. Yes, you are correct. But before that is Article 1, Section 9. It specifically talks about it. The migration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit shall be prohibited by the Congress shall not be prohibited by the Congress prior to the year 1808. But a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation not exceeding $10 for each person. A lot of people stem this from slavery, but it's more than that. The Constitution does not erect a border wall either, right? And I'll explain why here in just a minute. And then, so let's just go back to Article 1, Section 8. You just brought that up, Ralph. The Congress, one of the duties of the Congress is to provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasion. When we clearly have a threat coming across the border, it is Congress that should be getting a hold of these states and saying, hey, we have an issue. These people are coming to dominate the U.S., not to assimilate. They're coming to destroy the law. And they call up the state's militia, the people, right, the able-bodied men, to go out and enforce the law and suppress the insurrection and repel them back, right? That is the duty. And in such, they are to organize, arm, and discipline the militia when in that service, right? A lot of people forget that. They should be actually providing the means necessary to do what they ask us to do. But I've not seen that in my lifetime, nor has my father, even though that would be a very simple solution to the problem. And what's happening now is we have Governor Greg Abbott, right? And we talked about this a little bit on Friday. All of us did. And so I went a little deeper, and I actually talked with my my National Guard friends as well to get a little more insight. But Article 1, Section 10 says that no state shall, without the consent of Congress, do a couple of things. One of which is keep troops, right? Or enter into any agreement or compact with another state, or engage in war, unless actually invaded, or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay, right? But what we have is states contracting with Texas, using their troops, which they shouldn't have anyway. We should not have armed troops among us, namely the National Guard, the statutorily created, if I can say that word, statutorily created army within each state here. And we can say that we're engaged in war. That's perfectly fine. However, without consent for it, then it shouldn't be happening. And I spoke on that Friday, and Karen and I went back and forth on this specifically regarding the possibilities of what could happen. And I did get confirmation that the Guard that the states are sending down to Texas are actually under the state's title yet. The state is the governing authority over them, right? It is Title 10. Once they get transferred to Title 10, they fall under the pay and the authority of the federal government. So as of now, the states still remain control of their National Guard as they're sending them down there. But I have to ask the question, because I'm not a big Governor Abbott fan. I mean, he's done some good down there, and I'll give him credit for some of that. But all of a sudden, Greg Abbott wants to bring everybody together and stop the invasion that's happening at his state's border. Okay, even though he's the governor, he could have been stopping it this whole time.
And he's throwing all of them at the rest of the states. And
There you go.
It's like who's actually facilitating this? Greg Abbott. Abbott should have turned him around, turned their sorry behinds around, and we laid this out to Mexico and anybody else that they've gone through.
Yeah, so you go back to 22, in September of 22, Greg Abbott was caught shipping over 11,000 migrants across to what he called democratic cities, including Washington, D.C. Sent them over to the area around where Kamala Harris lives, right? And a lot of people were praising Abbott for that. And I stood back saying, come on, guys. I thought we abode by the law here, right? I feel a lot like John Adams in that regard. You know, we praise people for doing what we think is good, and it seems like a good thing, but it's lawless. I don't care if it's a good thing or not. If it's lawless, I'm going to stand against it, right?
And additionally, that is actually part of the strategy, is to bring the migrants into the democratically controlled cities specifically, because if you look at the Constitution, the way that the seats in Congress are apportioned is by residents, not by citizens. And so the actual voting power of anyone that is in a place that is overwhelmed by migrants is outsized compared to those that are all legal. Their voting power is exaggerated by the presence of illegal immigrants. So by doing that, by shipping
great
them
minds think alike is what it is.
By shipping them into the big cities like that, oh yeah, that's a great thing for him to do. No, that is exactly the strategy.
Yeah,
it's playing right into it.
Yeah, these wicked people that we call our representatives out there, they don't have the support they want you to think that they have. for everybody listening, they don't have the support, right? They weren't elected. They were placed there. But to try and prove that they were properly elected, they have to bring people in that will elect them because they don't have the voter base currently. They are all there by design, not by vote, right? And that's the way they always are. I think it was I might get this one wrong. I thought it was Hitler, but now that I'm thinking about it, I think I got the wrong guy. But one of them is probably Stalin. One of them had said that oh man, I lost that one.
It's not who votes, but who counts the votes too.
Yeah. Oh, one of the designs of war is to make the enemy think that there are more of you than what there are. You know that quote? I don't know. Anyway, that's exactly what we're seeing.
The strategy.
They are trying to make it look like there are more of them than there are of us, right? And it's not the case. And that is part of the reason, Ralph, that they're bringing them all in there. They have to enlarge their base to make it look like they support them more.
And it's important that they're actually illegal. That's actually a critical component of it. Because if they were legal, then they would be allowed to vote. And they might vote differently. But as long as they can bring illegals into an area a geographic area that's already set to vote one way consistently that they want, then, like, for example, let's say you have a district that is effectively, there are as many illegals as there are legal Americans there. Well, those legal Americans' vote counts for basically twice as much as Americans that are in an area with 0% illegal immigrants once the census actually counts them.
Yep, that's the baseline.
Well, and it makes it real easy for them to stack the votes too, or insert votes into it, because people won't even question whether they were actually coming from people or not, because they'll say, well, look at how many people we have here. They can do it from an internal source, which was what we absolutely saw with the absentee votes, the absentee ballots.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the same reason why they added secret ballots to that process. Right? That's the same reason why one person can't go in and audit the ballots, because right now they cannot prove that they did what they did lawfully, and they know it, and we know it. It's how long are they going to get away with it?
Well, we're supposed to vote in private, but count in public. And the minute you put your ballot into a machine, you've just violated the law right there, because that's counting in private. And so we have to go back to the hand counts and paper ballots, in the precincts. There's no other way to do it. And I want to see a camera pointed at those ballots and tallying them up. Having several redundant systems to tally up the count to make sure that it matches.
We already have a distinction right now between the ballot counting process and the voter verification process. Both sides of that have been corrupted, but it's entirely possible to do the voter verification side completely correctly and still have anonymous ballots or anonymous voting, where you've only given out ballots and you have a number tied to that person, there's a lot to going through the voting mechanics right now, because there's a lot screwed up. So I'm not going to go into all of that, but there's a way to separate out the authentication of the person from the authentication of the ballot and the counting of the ballot, and still be able to have secret ballots, but have public, observable, auditable counting.
Voter verification that their vote actually did count exactly the way that they voted is necessary.
Yep.
That's it. And all of that, and I just want to remind everybody, all of what I just went through there, that short little thing, I don't know how many people realize, but this entire invasion that we have is none other than the simple judgments of God upon a disobedient people, right? And I've actually been laughed at when I said that. But if you read back in Deuteronomy 28, it's verse 43 and 44, lay it out very clearly, where it says, the stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, thou shalt not lend to him, and he shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. That's exactly what we're seeing here. They're bringing them in, and they're propping them up and giving them all sorts of freebies to do so. And in the meantime, it is all taken from the backs of the American people. We are losing it as long as we allow it to continue.
Did you see the video of Ilhan Omar talking about Somalia? And
yeah, when she was booed off stage.
Yeah, well, the thing, well, she wasn't booed off stage in this one. She was talking about, we are Somalian, and this nation will serve Somalia. She needs to be summarily dismissed, and you know, she's a traitor. Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what that is. And where are the other guys? Anybody that the conservative movement would call good in Congress, a good guy, where is the impeachment? None of them have stood for anything. It's just like in the state of Michigan. The legislature in Michigan should have stopped the certification of the vote. They had the power to do that, and they let it go through in 2020. They let it go through in 2022, so they are complicit. And every single one of them needs to be removed. Yep, that's it. If there's no justice, I don't want them there. Right. And that's the same thing I'm looking for in candidates here. It's people that are willing to take it to task and actually bring the justice that's deserved to guard our liberties. It's as simple as that. So, clean sweep, top to bottom, including the clerks, the county clerks, and we need to have a house cleaning, because they're all in it to protect their jobs, to protect their power structures. And it's a cult mentality. Same thing's happening in the political parties that are out there. You don't get in. I mean, look at what's happening with the National Party. What was it in New Hampshire, Ralph? We were looking at that the other day. That they basically overstepped. Biden wasn't supposed to be on the ballot, so they did a write-in campaign, and he won on a write-in campaign.
Yep, I believe that was New Hampshire. I'd have to look that up, but. Yeah, this isn't a single party thing. You know, this is both sides are doing this kind of thing. And, you know, look at, for anyone on the Democrat side, look back to 2016, you know, look what they did with Bernie and Hillary. And they're doing the same kind of thing in I believe it's New Hampshire now, where the National Party pretty much just disregarded the will of the people there and said, no matter what you guys actually vote on there, we're going to disregard it because Biden is the choice. Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. They're not even some of them are not even having primaries. They're just saying this is our candidate, and that's coming from the national parties, and both sides are doing it, Republican as well as Democrat. Yep, we bash on the Republicans a lot because, you know, we get to see that, but it's both sides doing this. You know, this isn't a Republican or a Democrat thing. This is both of them working against you, working to silence the voice of the people, and they're doing it at every level. It's not just the nationals. It's not just the states. It's not even just the counties. You know, you can just keep going right on down, and all of it is about removing the voice of the people. Our property. I mean, look what happened to me this past week with when I was talking about the township hiding a tax bill
that we went and we talked to them and said, well, what, we made sure everything was good and in order and such. And then the person down at the township said, yeah, your whole tax roll is clean. Well, our CFO called him back a couple of times because something wasn't feeling right. And all of a sudden it popped up, and they were hiding it. There's no two ways about it. That was an intentional hiding by someone. I don't know how it happened, but you can't go into a township and check on things like that just to make sure everything is right. And all of a sudden, the person working within the township can't find anything. And all of a sudden, after the third pass through, she's like, oh my God. And all of a sudden something pops up. Why did they hide this? It was hidden. There's no two ways about it. And if they're doing it to, of course I step forward and I piss off everybody because I just talk about what's really going on out there. And I really don't care. This is not my home. I'm not afraid to die, and it's like, this is not my home. We're passing through this earth. And we need to be able to stand on what we believe in and do it for the right thing. I would do the same thing all over again. And I'm going to say it again. I won by losing because I proved I wasn't one of them. And, and that's good enough. That's good enough for me. I don't need anybody's approval or anything like that. Nobody should look for other people's approval. We shouldn't fear men. We should fear God, and that's it. And do what's right in the sight of God Almighty. That's it. But yeah, so yeah, all of a sudden it's like, we're like a month and a half of them away from foreclosing on. And I mean, I don't owe any money on this property at all. I mean, it's free and clear. It's not like we even owe anything on it. They hid the tax roll on this. And by the grace of God, we had some weird thing that came in from another county. It was Title 2022 or something like that. Never got the property posted. Never got a alert from the township. Nothing. And all of a sudden this comes in. I'm like, this is odd. We better look into this. It was hidden on the tax rolls. It took us three stabs at talking to the people from the township to find this information. If anybody thinks this wasn't intentional, you're stupid. It was an intentional attack. There's no two ways about it. Then they were hiding it. So it's really too bad, but we're going to get to the bottom of this, because there's going to be, I think every single person up there at this point in time, if they're hiding things on a tax roll in order to commandeer property, how is that any different than what Bill Gates is doing and buying up property or getting a hold of it by hook or crook any way they can? They don't follow the law. They do whatever they want to do. And then you're fighting this beast system there that they've got all the money and the attorneys in the world to come after you and mess up, your lives. And then they're pretty good at it. They're sneaky at it. We got to stay at 1 or 2 steps ahead of them all the time and watch out, because they are not out for your best good. They're out for the little snaky people that are in there with them. They're colluding. It's a criminal conspiracy that's happening in this state.
This is all coming like full circle for me. We keep going round and round about it. All of these things being connected, and it's really easy for people to get overwhelmed with the idea. What Bill was saying about the party meeting, I've seen the same in assembly meetings, especially the intro meetings where people haven't been working in assembly as we have. And I've been there. I felt the same way. When you first hear about something you can do, there's a passion, there's a dedication, there's a high energy, there's a positive energy that comes out of the anger and the fear. And the evils are no longer sufferable for some people, but they just don't know what to do because they've never been trained. They've never been taught. They really don't know history. And when you don't know history, you don't know how to fix history. And when you get a group of people together there's somebody who says, hey, I have an answer for you. More and more, the people will flock to that. And that is a danger right now. Is we have some people who are saying, look over here, I'll be the one to tell you what you can do. And some of them are correct, or at least well-intentioned, even if they're not actually correct. And some of them are not well intentioned at all. And so that is where the quote unquote grassroots are having a really hard time right now, because they've tried this, that, and the other, and they're getting disappointed time after time because they've chosen wrong or wrongly. And it's really hard to discern which avenue do you go. For a lot of people, and that number is increasing, the evils are no longer sufferable. They are with that Declaration of Independence because they get it. And I keep coming back to, as I wrote in a Substack, the fact that there was a declaration written and sent to England 10 full years before we get to the Revolutionary War. So there were enough people sent by the delegates of the states, 9 out of 13, that said, hey, we don't like what's happening here. We don't like it, but please, please, please be nice to us, and please stop this, and please do these things, kind sir, King New England or Old England. And it didn't work out for them because they weren't heard. And it wasn't until they put their foot down and put action to their words and declared their independence, but they had to fight for it, that things changed. They had to take some kind of action. We were never taught about that first declaration in school, at least not where I came from. So that is where we are in America right now. So all of these things that we're complaining about, they generate fear and anger. If the focus is on fear, it doesn't work. If the focus is on anger, it's the energy for change. So people are, a lot of people are still kind of stuck in the fear mode where they're trying to do this, they're trying to do that. We can see it, and I don't like it. And what are they going to do? They're gonna. No, you've got to start seeing it in a different way. This is why I don't worry about it. This is why you don't worry about it, Donna and Bill and Ralph, because you know what they were gonna is a plan, but it's failing. They were gonna do something. They were planning to do something. They are trying to do something. But because we are aware of it and we are taking action, we're building up that 3%. We're building up that 10% that tips the tide in our favor. And if you see these actions happening, you know that God is behind those people who are trying to do better for our world, our country, our state, our local community. You see that He acknowledges the effort of good people to become more godly. And also this morning, and then I'll stop, at least for a while. So I'm remembering once again the concept in 2 Kings, I think it's 22, chapter 22 or so, 23, where King Josiah gets a book of the law read to him, and he flips out. He's rending his clothes. He is just distraught because he realizes the whole people have fallen away from the book of the law, and they've got to return to it. There's that concept of we have to know our history. So what does he do? He gets it read to the whole people, and they all react the same way. We have got to learn our history. We've got to learn the book of the law in order to make a change for the better. You have to fix what was done. What did they do? They went around and destroyed all the idols, all the signs of the things that were putting a stumbling block between them and God. That's what that millstone scripture is in Matthew.
We have to.
That wasn't about children. It was about a millstone being placed between a stumbling block being placed between innocent people and their spiritual alignment with God. And if we work together and say, okay, number one, I'm aware, and number two, I would like to do something about it, that alone dissolves the plan. And they were going to do something. That removes your fear, and you begin to trust in God more and more. And the more you surround yourself, it's just like an assembly of the church. You have an assembly of political people. They're kind of the same in that when you have yourself surrounded by people who are thinking we can do something positive, it helps to remove the fear. If you're surrounded by people who are talking negatively all the time, you're not going anywhere. Okay, I yield.
And we also have to recognize our position, which is under God. We in our position, in God's position, it's his sandbox, and he's got certain rules here. And he's trying to help us. He's not, when they try to tell you, just do whatever you want to do. There's no consequences. Nobody's watching, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they really are. But there's rules. You run out in front of a truck, you're probably going to get killed, right? You take a large dose of fentanyl, you're going to die. Okay. There are some absolutes here, and it reaches much farther than a lot of people think that it does. There are rules, and guess who makes them? God made them. God made the rules. He made the sun come up and, every day to warm the earth. He makes the seasons. He has processes here that give us a garden to live in. That could be and should be a beautiful place. It is us who invited evil in, and it's God's battle. He redeemed us, but it's also us who has to stand firm against those things and kick them out of our lives and our country and our world. We have to fight with them. We don't just sit back and say, well, I'm going to ignore all of this and just let it go on. You ignore it, you say nothing, you're complicit.
Yep. Reprove the works of darkness. Bring them to light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's hard. It's like, showing that video that I showed earlier. I'm sorry, but there's a lot worse I can show you. There's a ton of stuff out there with the ceremonies, the satanic ceremonies that they had. Would stop your heart, actually, if you really saw what they were actually involved in. I want to show you this one talking about the border wall. I think this is the guy I want to bring up here. Let's see.
These massive groups that are coming through the Darien Gap and all coming up by train and ended up in Eagle Pass and Juarez and Yuma and Brownsville. All of these illegals are a distraction for these guys. You can see right here, this should piss off every single American. This actually was wall. They took it down to make room for the new wall. This was all President Trump's wall that was going to go up, all the material that was going to go in this place. They took it down, and it was wide open. Joe Biden took over and said, we're not putting that wall up. We're just going to let that rot out here in the desert. And so they put this temporary garbage up that does absolutely nothing. You can see right here, they just bend the stuff back. They just fold it back right here. They've got a
Wow.
They've bent it back, and all day long, you've got illegals coming through here. They just simply climb right through there, and they run through the landfill when they think it's a safe time to get across. While Border Patrol's being pulled over to process all the illegals that are coming through, that Joe Biden and the Democrats have invited, all of these people that don't want to get caught are simply streaming through. I was here a few weeks ago, and all of these openings in this pathetic, worthless, not even a wall, are all new now.
There was
Head
another
down the line and see how many ladders we can count. Got 4 of them last time, had group after group after group. We'll see what we find today down past Santa Teresa, port of entry.
There's another one that I saw that showed a guy that was basically a half a mile away from Eagle Pass. There was an open gate.
Yep, I saw that one.
Eagle Pass. I'm trying to think of where I found that or I saw that, because it's pretty damning, really, because it shows that all the cameras are right there, Eagle Pass and such, but they've literally they literally have gates that there's nothing there. People can just drive down these roads. There's no security there. There's no nothing there. And you can't look at that and say that this is the border's wide open. in the Eagle Pass thing, it sounds like it's more for photo op and for for the photo ops than anything. There is no border security down there, none, zero zip, and
all for show. It's an election
all for
year.
show.
If we would quit alluring the immigration across the border and quit giving them free stuff like we talked about, and start holding the law to them when they break the law, hold it to them, make a public example out of them the way our founding fathers used to do, guess what? We wouldn't even need a wall there. They wouldn't want to come over because they know they can't get anything. And if they try anything stupid, they're going to be severely punished for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would suggest a two-pronged approach. Number one, cut the handouts for Americans, and that refuse to work but are capable of doing so. Number two, start up an Ellis Island kind of thing and turn all of these illegals into Americans as quickly as possible. We have the capability. We got all this surveillance. We should be able to process them as soon as possible. Process them right away. Turn them into tax-paying Americans that now are no longer entitled to the handouts because none of us are.
Well, I think that we have to make a differentiating move here against what is crime and what is lawful and what is not. You can't give somebody a pass and say, oh, that's okay, they're Muslim. They can do this because they're Muslim. It's their religion. That's bull crap. We have a law here in this nation. If you want to come to this nation, you come here and you abide by the law. You don't come through here and overtake us and just replace what our country. That is called an invasion. And it's just like all these people that are protesting under the Palestinian flag in front of the White House. This is an invasion. They are under a foreign flag. Right then and there, they should be termed as a foreign threat. And we're supposed to defend against all threats, both domestic and foreign. They have just put themselves under another country's flag. That is an invasion right there. That's not a protest. That's an invasion. You don't do that.
All of this would stop, though, if as soon as they got across the border, they got okay, welcome to America. Thanks for becoming a citizen. Here's your tax bill, and here's your form where you can sign up for the draft. Problem would solve itself.
No draft.
Yeah, I'm not okay with that.
No.
Send them back.
I prefer the old way of doing things. I'm really tempted to pull out my training manual, 2000-25, I believe is the title, but it would bore you if I read it too long. There's a segment in there about immigration, but I found it really interesting the first time I read it, because if you didn't qualify, you didn't get off the boat. And at that time, most people were coming by ship into the country rather than over by land. But if you were a prostitute, you didn't get off the boat. If you were blind, if you had seizures, if you were lame,
TB,
if you had any kind of disease, if you could not prove that you had some sort of profession that you could keep yourself stable and provide for not only yourself and your family, but for your community, you didn't get off the boat. So if you were from another country that was deemed an enemy, you weren't getting off the boat. All these foreign young men from countries that we don't have a positive relationship with, let's just put it that way, not likely to make it across the border.
Yep.
Either
Who is
all
this
that.
child? You don't have proof that this child is your child. Maybe we'll take the child, but we're not taking you. And that child's not going to be sent to some stranger and some community where they don't prove themselves worthy to take care of the child either.
Now, the kids need to be with the parents, and they all need to go back home.
See, that's what I'm saying.
That's the trouble.
This is where that processing needs to happen immediately, to be able to see if they're qualified to even immigrate. Because that's one of the excuses that's being given out right now is, oh, immigration takes so long that these people are coming here, starting the immigration process when they cross the border, and then sitting on the immigration list for, over a decade while they establish a family and a homestead here. And well, now we can't deport them. No, it needs to happen immediately. Even if you're gonna consider the legal immigration route here, it needs to happen right away. We have all kinds of technology for this. We need to, if they're going to legally immigrate here, they need to be tax paying immediately, like the rest of us, or they need to not be here.
Yep.
Yeah, if we supposedly, I agree with you. I believe we do have the capability, but we're not using it. If we do have the capability, or we don't, let's just say we don't have the capability to process them, and we don't bring them in, period.
Right.
It's not safe.
And not that I'm advocating for all the taxes that we have right now, because I think they're no better than any of this as an issue. But on the other hand, if we're going to treat Americans this way, we should be treating immigrants this way as well.
Yeah, we're just second-class citizens. The way things are going right now is that, they treat all of us like second-class citizens, and all the people that cross the border, they get all this free crap, and we're paying for it.
Yep, that's it.
That's it right
All right.
there.
Well, I have to get to work, y'all. I am way beyond my original time span. So.
Yeah, we held you hostage this morning, didn't we?
Oh, it's a good thing once in a while.
Well, you know what? The thing of it is that all these things need to be talked about, because, this is how every single person in the United States should be talking, is being able to talk about the things that are on their minds. That's part of, running the nation and being a country, is having that free speech and talking about problems, getting to the core of what the problem is, and coming up with solutions on how to fix it. I know a guy, John Ferguson, he does the drones, he sells drones, and we've talked about it. And I asked him, I said, how much would it actually cost to secure the border, the southern border? He's like, about $500,000. Because they can do it with RoboDog, seismic reading, and all kinds of stuff. We have the technology to do it. And it's a 100% effective, but they don't want that border secure. We got to get somebody in there that, like President Donald Trump, the rightful president of the United States, somebody that's willing to go down there and say enough. I kind of do believe that at this point in time, we're kind of in the middle of we have to show people what they want, what they thought they wanted, of being this bleeding heart, fixing everything in the whole world, and saying, we can help. We can certainly help. It's not that we don't want to help, but people have to want to be helped too. You can't, if people don't want to be helped, you're throwing money, resources, time, whatever, right down a black hole pit of despair, because those people become the parasite class also, that will eat up everything that they have and you have and everything else. I mean, look at the poem, The Snake, that President Trump reads quite often. You let the snake in, the snake's going to bite you. You have to vet and know, who are you actually letting in? Well, right now we're letting in an invading army. Absolutely. And they're sitting in the seats of Congress and the seats of the legislature in Michigan and all over. I mean, we have an invading army that's already in positions of power.
Well, and like Bill said, though, we're incentivizing it.
We're not just
letting it in. We are incentivizing it.
And what's the snake? The ones that are sitting in the seats right now, they're paying for the invasion of our nation.
And anyone in that regard, if they're alluring them or giving them any amount of incentivization to come across, and they commit such crimes against the American people, those people need to be held in account. They are treasonous. It is clearly defined. They are aiding the enemy of the United States. Anybody looking to seek to overthrow it. So.
Quartering foreign troops.
I would include Governor Abbott in that. He did say just the other day, I'm going to keep sending them. over to other cities.
The
So
traitor.
you want other people from other states to come and protect your state while you are sending these people to other states.
Because
Yep.
he's too weak to protect
That's
the border.
two-faced. That's
Abbott is-
two-faced. You're not protecting
Yep.
the border when you're part of the problem. I'm sorry, you're violating your oath.
That's
Yeah,
why I
he's
call
also-
that.
Held to account.
That's why I call that whole thing a false flag. If you
And
pay close attention to it, Americans, you're going to get something big out of that, and probably something that we don't want.
Well, and he's doing exactly the opposite of what he's saying he's doing by diluting the votes of legitimate voters.
across America.
Yep.
And he's a coward by not protecting the border. That's a coward's way out. We're gonna sit there at the border and we're gonna let them in instead of protecting the border. We're just gonna shuffle our problem onto somebody else. And at this point in time, every state in the nation is a border state because the borders are absolutely porous. Look at Michigan and all the islands around Michigan and all the ships and the international port. Why do they want Michigan so bad? Resources, port, access to water, on and on. You know, why is the World Economic Forum headquarters being granted by Gretchen the Witch Whitmer in this state? The headquarters in Detroit. And how did that come about? Oh, let's tie the Republican Party right into this as well as the Democrat Party, because it was through Benson and Weiser and all of them, you know, and I'm sorry, you know, people have been jumping on me for getting rid of, you know, for not standing with Christina Cramo. Christina Cramo needed to be removed. That doesn't mean that you take another stupid choice and put them in there and say, well, you know, we could have had her in here because of her headlines and blah, blah, blah. No, she needed to be gone. And the everyone else that's committing crimes and facilitating this nonsense, they need to be gone too. And we need to start cutting. That's what you do. You cut until you get the last person, down to the last person that committed a crime in this nation. And you keep cutting until if it's the last man standing, you keep cutting until you get rid of the criminality. You don't just sit there and make excuses for it. Now they're going after Laura Loomer, saying, oh, Laura Loomer's fault that Christina. No, she still was in the wrong. Karamo was still in the wrong. Doesn't mean Hoekster's in the right. It doesn't mean Ron Romney's in the right. They're all of them in the wrong. And until we learn that we cut until we get to the bottom of the criminality, the treason, the traitorousness, we're going to keep eating the crap that they're feeding us.
Yep, that's right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you next week.
Thank you, sir. And have a great day today.
Take care, Ralph, Karen.
See you later. You too.
You too.
I wish I could find that border that thanks, Bill. I wish I could find that I was looking at it here where the guy was driving away from Eagle Pass, and at half mile down the road there's open gates with like a dirt road just going right straight through. They didn't even have the barricades up that I just showed you. It was totally open gates. So
I just saw that recently. I'm going to jump off for just a second. I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah, see if you can find that, because that was really a crazy. This is where we can't believe everything that the news media puts out there too. It's like I have to wonder too. Some of the migrant crossings that we're seeing, how much truth that there is in this. Here's Abbott blaming. You know, we don't even know how much truth is involved in any of this nonsense. We have to deal with it as it comes up. Well, let's see what we got.
There's something else I was thinking this morning as we're talking. Trump will point to all of this stuff happening at the border, and he'll rile people up and get people angry because, like we're doing, you know, just me a minute ago, I'm angry about Governor Abbott, but I also know that it's part of the show. It's part of what we have to see, so that we can learn. I think that a lot of this is all about we're learning. We have to have a comparing contrast between what happens when you don't do anything and what happens when you do your part and you're aware. And is Trump worried, though? He's getting people excited and he's getting people angry, but does he look fearful
Not
He
at all.
doesn't look fearful at all. And he keeps saying, we're going to fix this. We're going to fix this. Vote for me. We're going to fix this. But it's not about his election. I don't think it even requires him to be elected, because he seems to have so much faith. And if you trust him, and of course, God first, I'm not saying that Trump is the hero or the savior here. He's a focal point, and I've been pointing that out for a long time. I don't think Trump is the savior of the country. He is just a focal point because he represents us and our wishes. And they can't stand that he is a unifier, bringing us together and calling attention to all these things.
Well,
But
he
he is
clearly
not fearful.
He clearly stated that this was a process to give the nation back to we the people.
Yes.
Well, that means that we the people need to know what that means and know the alternative of not stepping up and taking our rightful place and running this nation and electing good people to run it and not allow the snakes and the criminals, the parasite class in. We can't just sit back and believe all their lies. We have to critically think. This is why it's so important to look at all the problems. We have to look at the problems, do risk assessments, find out what's real, what's not real, and continue to sift through it. There is nothing out there right now that we're going to go through and say, yep, this is the truth. This is the truth every time. You're gonna go through it, and you're gonna start having to sift through these sands a little bit, and throw things against the wall for a little while and see what sticks, because there's so much infiltration going on that things are going to shift a little bit over time, and that's okay. That's just more truth coming up over time. Let's listen to Greg Abbott.
To hold the Biden administration accountable to the laws that exist on the books in the United States of America.
Okay, we need to hold Abbott accountable for the laws that are on the books of the United States of America.
Walk us through a typical day at the border. So you have different categories of persons, I gather. You have some who are, for example, going through the CBP-1 process, who are looking to apply for asylum. There are others who are just brazenly crossing the border without regard for that process. Talk to us about what that looks like and these different categories of individuals.
So let's do a little compare and contrast. What does a typical day look like in New York City with regard to the migration process? And it is completely different than what we are dealing with every single day on the border. We have in any one particular location, thousands of people crossing the border in a mad rush type of way. You have people who are dropped off on buses at city centers, may be connected to non-governmental organizations, things like that. We have people who are being pushed across the border by the cartels, by the thousands, into small little communities, completely disrupted.
Why is he allowing it?
What happens is once they get across the border, we have one thing that does not take place in New York. They're called bailouts. The people who get across the border, there are smugglers on the Texas side of the border who pick them up, put them in cars, and then are driving at a racing speed to get to the next location.
Why is Abbott allowing this?
And we have Texas Department of Public Safety officers that are pursuing them and at a dangerous speed, 80, 90, 100 miles per hour car chases. And the smugglers know if we capture the smugglers, they're going to be arrested and put behind bars for 10 years or longer. And so they bail out, and the smugglers take off running and leave behind a car full of migrants who they're smuggling. You don't have bailouts here in New York that I know of, and you see them hardly in any other place. So we have the bailouts. We have crime taking place in ways that you don't see in New York. We have cartels that have been caught on video as they're coming across the border.
So this is, there's to your point, Karen. It's like, why is he allowing this?
Mm-hmm.
So I found that video.
Okay.
It's in the private chat there. It's on a site called 9gag, which is Chinese, but at least they have the video. I also found the only
second one. Is it the second one or the first one?
The 9gag one.
Okay.
The YouTube link that I posted there is the only time I have ever run a search on YouTube and only gotten a single result.
Maybe that's because Ralph is so good at doing a search.
Yeah, I kind of doubt that. I think it's probably, if there's only
I'm teasing.
one thing there, there's a pretty good chance something's being hidden. I have never seen that before ever on YouTube.
All right. Here.
And you got to kind of give it a minute because the video is a little bit long because he's trying to show, he or she, whoever's taking this video, is trying to show pretty much in real time how far you actually have to go to find this.
Yep.
Because it isn't very far.
Ralph, hang on. Let him finish a minute. Here, we'll go through it again. Well, there was the one that I saw too on this one. Let's see if I can take that one down. There was one that I saw that there's like 3 or 4 of them right in a row. And I'm not sure if there's one after this. Do you know? You there, Ralph?
Sorry, I was trying to look up something else. That is the only fragment of it that I was able to find. It looks like most of the rest of it has been kind of scrubbed off the internet. But
yeah, there's a surprise.
Yeah.
Can you download it from there? Preserve it?
I'm not sure. But yeah, that's it. It's only a
Because
portion of that video, I think. But it's
Yeah,
at
the
least
video is
part of it.
longer than that because I know I saw a longer video that showed like 3 or 4 of those gates through there, which, I don't know.
Well, that right there is how we do this, how we win, because we're sharing the truth. What is the narrative? What is the intention? What is the real purpose behind what Abbott is doing? Is Abbott, he's part of the plan for sure. Who's he playing for? You know, these are the kind of questions that you ask. Well, he is hurting people. He's hurting our country by doing it. Well, actually, in the long run, it's kind of like Trump telling people, a lot of people are really upset that he promoted the shots. Trump saved countless lives by doing that. And if you can't see that, you're totally missing. You got to look above in a larger picture what's really happening. If we're saving our country by allowing some of these immigrants to come in through Governor Abbott, then Governor Abbott is doing us all a favor. Can we sit here and be judgmental and get angry at him for doing that? In a sense, yes, because we're supposed to be aware and we're supposed to disagree with it. But on the other hand, you can sit back and not become too overly emotional about it and take stupid actions because you realize that the outcome is perhaps better for us because of what he's doing. And maybe he's doing it because he's supposed to be doing it. Pence, Vice President Pence, was he supposed to do what he did on January 6th? I think he was. Was he penned in because he had no choice constitutionally? Maybe. I'm still not sure about that one. But
Yeah, I get followed
and
up
is
on
he a
that one
good
too.
guy or a bad guy? I don't really know. But was he supposed to do what he did in that single action? The answer is yes, because we had to lose in order to win. And that's really hard for some people to understand. You have to see the bigger picture and not get so overwhelmed and blinded by your anger that you can't then see things in a positive way and move on with your life with positive energy and share that positive energy with other patriots and move forward in a positive direction.
Well, the thing of it is that gets me fouled up with that is the fact that DeVos gave $22 million to Pence after Betsy DeVos resigned on the 7th. So there's some seriously concerning problems there. Okay, what are you showing me here, Ralph? I'm gonna go ahead and put this up. Ralph sent this.
Okay, so that is I was looking through the comments on that video, trying to see if anyone had the actual source for that video. And I couldn't find the source for the video to try and find the full version of it, but somebody did post the coordinates of exactly where that open gate is. Now, if you take your little orange guy on the bottom right there and drag him onto the road right where that point is, it'll put Street View. You want to go up by that point. It'll put Street View there so you can see it. The gate was open when Google Street View was going through there too. And the people in the comments on there too were saying, there was one guy that said, "I'm from Eagle Pass. This guy is stupid. This isn't the border." Well, no, it's not exactly the border because the border's in the river. That's right on the other side of that fence.
Mm-hmm.
And if
so
you
it's
if
open
you go
full
to
time. If Google Street View, if the vehicles went through there, then absolutely that this is for real.
Yeah, if you click up the road just to the right, just a little bit, you can see. Yeah, there we go. You can see there's that building that was in that video. So you want to say, "Oh, this isn't the same place." Well, go back to the map and zoom out, and you can see how close this is.
Mm-hmm. See, I think I screwed my view up here. Let's see.
If you click the map on the bottom left there, that should take you back, or hit the go to expand. And then
this here is a lesson in discernment and how to research things.
Yeah, and you can scroll that map up or zoom the map out just a little bit, and you can see how close that is to the border crossing. That bottom right zoom. There you go. Yeah, if you zoom out, you can see how close that is to the little bit more contested border crossing just to the north of it. It's just right there.
So then we have to ask questions about why are we all focused on a highly contested
Am
portion?
I seeing that right? That just across from that open gate is Casa del Migrante?
There's the Eagle Pass Bridge right there. Where are you looking?
Go where the pins drop there. Look just across the Rio Grande there. Just to the left of where the orange pin is.
Yeah. Huh. It's like a lovely place to vacation. Just saying.
Here, I'll send you a place link.
Huh. All right. Well, there you go.
Yep, so anybody trying to debunk that as, oh, the gate has nothing to do with the border. Yeah, you might want to actually look at a map.
Interesting.
It is not, the border wall there where the gate is, I'll admit, is not the border itself. There, it looks like, is about 450 feet of American soil past that wall, with easily traversable roads and a narrowed point in the Rio Grande River. So
they've got plenty of space to they've got plenty of space to shut this thing down.
Yep.
It's Abbott's complicit.
And you notice that the whole immigration thing got real big right before the census. Because that's when they get to recalculate the proportional redistribution of congressional seats.
Huh. Trucking company right there. Exports, imports right there, Central 57. That's pretty interesting.
Well, I think that is one of the largest, well, not necessarily the largest, but one of the larger trucking import-export points in the country, I think, isn't it?
Well, I find it all very interesting. It sure is a lot to we should all be looking into this a little bit more than just taking what people are saying at face value.
Yeah, and apologies for the lousy my Spanish is not great, so my pronunciation of that point there, if it wasn't clear, but which one it was, but yeah, it's right there.
Interesting. See, I completely believe that there's no way that the immigration or the people that are being shipped in here walk 2,000 miles. They're like, oh, they came from this country or that country. Yeah, right. They sure did not. They were
with the substantial proportion of them that are Chinese. I would ask how someone's going to walk from China to Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Well, we all can see that this is a problem we're going to have to deal with at some point in time now or in the future. But I think it's a little more complex than what people even have their hands around.
Got to be pretty good at holding your breath to walk across the Pacific Ocean.
Or from Haiti.
Yep.
So, well, guys, this is all interesting. All interesting. Anyhow,
A lot going on.
Other thoughts going on?
Do you want me to tell you about my chicken?
Your what?
My chicken.
Your chicken. Okay, let's go away from the border type stuff. Let's get back to normal stuff here. Let's talk about chickens.
So my driveway is gravel. And the chickens are like, yay, we can see the ground again. So they've been circulating around the gravel of the driveway. And I was watching them out the window, and they're headed out toward the gate. It's open right now. So they can see they're not intimidated by the road. They're just not interested in the road typically. We did have one get hit this last year, which was really surprising because it's unheard of. They just don't cross the road, contrary to the joke. Not here. It's paved. There's no interest on the pavement normally. But they're like, ooh, there's gravel and there's things to peck around in the gravel. And I'm watching them all closer and closer and closer get to the road. And I'm like, okay, at this point, I've got to go do something about it. So I go outside. I muted myself for a little bit there. And I got some corn and I threw it out. And then most of them came running. Well, old Brunhilde, we call her Bruni for short. She's our old hen. We got her when she was an adult, so we can't say exactly how old she is. She has a broken toe on one foot. She's got feathered feet because she's a Brahma. That's where her name came from. And a buff Brahma. So she's our biggest hen. She's pretty.
Brahmas are cool.
She's not a bully, but her presence is enough that the chickens seem to show respect to her. Well, she went too far down the roadway at the edge of the roadway. And so for her to see the corn, she's going to go the wrong direction because chickens are stupid that way. She has to go back against the direction of the food to go back through the gate. So now I have to go out of the gate and go down the road and herd her back. Well, she's flipping out because she's not sure what to do. And she ended up in the snow. And then she's like, ugh. She's an old lady. She can't go through several inches of wet snow, and so she's just stuck there now. And she looks like she's like 10 pounds, but she's like light as a feather because she's old and she hasn't been doing good. So I pick her up and she's giving me kind of a dirty look, but we've been watching her for the last couple of weeks. She's the one that just sits outside in the sun and squeezes her eyes kind of half shut and just stands there like if she had a front porch and a rocking chair, she'd be in it most of the day. She just doesn't have the energy, and I'm not sure she's sick, but she's holding her head up a lot and swallowing funny. So it's like we might have to alleviate her of her suffering at some point, but right now she's just being an old bird, and so that's why I said I've got to mute myself for a few minutes to take care of Broody.
Well, there you go. Chickens are
There's
fun.
your rescue story for the day.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Chickens are fun. So in this meeting on the weekend, I came out of with a lot of good ideas on getting people together. And I really think we need to do like an education series on all of this, just farm life type things, and perhaps even set up some private membership associations to function in the communities to actually take care of the communities in a very volunteer way, kind of off the grid way, that sort of thing. And I think it could be really fun. Teach people how to do chickens and canning and freeze drying and all that sort of thing. Things that you can put your own food up. Produce is what the land produces, and it's going to continue to produce. And you don't have to be afraid or anything like that. You can find food anywhere. And I did some foraging for food for a while. It's kind of interesting, as well as looking for medicines that are in the world, not necessarily having to go to big pharma, which I find really super interesting. Right now, I'm freeze drying potatoes that were from our gardens. So working on that and perfecting all of those different foods and such. But I think that would be kind of fun. Do stuff to teach people how to backyard chicken, and almost everybody can do it. They cannot stop you legally from being able to raise your own food, no matter where you are. They'll bluff you into it, but that doesn't mean that's going to hold water. And any of us out there that have land, we should be thinking about stuff like this, like community plots and taking care of our communities. So I think that's coming down the pike ahead of us here. It's going to be fun.
And any of us that have even just a little bit of land, but don't think that we can farm, should probably look into the Michigan Right to Farming Act.
Yes. And not only that, even if you're in an apartment, you know how much food you can raise with microgreens? Unbelievable. And I know somebody that was making about $250,000 a year in about a 20 by 10 space.
I've been wanting for a while to try building an algae bioreactor for some of the edible algae.
Yeah, like
spirulina. Yeah, spirulina is an incredible nutrient source and great source of B12 protein and omega-3s. It's a wonderful nutrient source. And that is one that if you have good, clean water and a source of sunlight and just a few nutrients, you can raise spirulina really even indoors from what I've seen, and grow a lot of food that way. That looks like that's something I've been interested in for a while.
It's oxygen rich too, isn't it?
Yeah, because it acts like a plant. It's kind of like somewhere between a plant and a bacteria. So it grows like a plant. Algae is weird. Most algae is not really considered plants. In fact, some of the algae is actually like gigantic multi-nucleated single cells, which those are fascinating because you don't see that a whole lot elsewhere in anywhere else, in the environment. But algae is really cool if you start looking at how algae works.
It's like fungi. Fungi is really interesting too, because the actual organism is underground and we only see the reproductive parts above ground.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So,
hey, ducks get to eat algae.
Yes, they do.
Yep.
Duckweed and all that. Well, guys, this has been a really interesting show. Confusing somewhat, but a very interesting show. So we all agree that Abbott's part of the problem. And that the Constitution Party is moving forward strongly. And I really want to thank you guys for coming on today. This is awesome.
Well, and another thing too, kind of on that same note from earlier, is if we talked about how effective that the Constitution Party, the U.S. Taxpayers Party in Michigan, can be, how useful that can be as a disruption if there's only even just a few people from the party elected. I would go further than that too and say that kind of piggybacking off of your win by losing thing is that, think about this too. If a third party, I don't care which third party you want to vote for, but if a third party has, say, 10% of the vote, and the two main parties both get, say, 41% of the vote, you think that isn't going to make them think twice, that the other two parties think twice about maybe we should reconsider our platform to try and recapture some of those voters, because clearly they're disenfranchised.
Yeah,
so
well, then we've got to think too, are they just saying it just to get in, crafting the messaging, or do they really mean it?
Absolutely. But even with small percentages of a vote, you can make people think.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a disruption in a lot of different ways to just people's thought processes and the entrenched positions that people are thinking in about how much control that they have over we the people, as politicians. It doesn't take much to really make a difference.
Yes. Well, and we're not politicians. We're just Joe schmucks here that are decided to jump in and try to fix this thing, watching our country go to hell. And I think there's some beauty in that, just being just an American who's willing to step forward and try to fix things when it's broken. And every one of us has that responsibility to do that. So let's say a prayer and move on to our day today, guys, okay? Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for Karen and Bill and Ralph and all the wonderful patriots out there that are standing together in this nation to address and confront the evil that has certainly made its way into our existence. We ask that you would confuse every plan of the enemy, that you would give everyone a braveness and a courageousness in your strength, that you would walk with us, that we would see you, we would follow your leading and have no fear going forward, no matter what it is that we have to face in front of us. You're with us. You've been there. You planned out every day that we are to be here, and we have no fear whatsoever. Thank you so much for loving us, for providing for us, protecting us, and for your favor being upon us. We really do love you so very much. Thank you for being a friend to us. We want to be a great friend to you. We love you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So guys, there we go. We're off to the races today. And here we go. Go to please BrandenburgForGovernor.com, because I'm the best non-conceder who has ever not conceded in the history of the United States. And I would love to have a conversation with President Trump about that someday. But at any rate, President Trump, the rightful president of the United States, because we believe in the American process. If it's not followed, it's not legal. And it's the American process that we defend, and the rights of each other. If we're not doing that, well, it's total chaos. And so we go back to the lawful processes that this country was established upon, the Constitution being the highest law of the land, not the UN, not the World Health Organization, not the NEA, the MEA, the indoctrination arms of the Marxists, not the Tavistock nonsense that's out there to formulate opinions. None of them. They don't matter. They are a nothing. It's the Constitution is the highest law of the land. And we have to go back to those lawful processes. So with that said, let me see. Oh, yes. And just so you know, Karen, I have a new Karen. Karen got her.
Karens are starting to take over, man. There's a bunch of Karens now.
Let's see if we can get Karen in front of the camera here with the heart hands. So I'm not the only one with heart hands on it. Did you notice how Whitmer was talking to a potato? I was like, she's a copycat because I have Tater Tuesday. And so at any rate, can't always be serious. But at any rate, God bless you. God bless all those whom you love. And God bless America. Make it a great day. It's your choice. We can be brave. We know that God is with us. And if God be with us, before us, who be against us? We don't have to be afraid of anything. Go forward and take the adventure at hand. It's an adventure. No matter which way things go, it is an adventure. You can have complete confidence that God is with you, and that that Jesus will never leave you. The Holy Spirit will never leave you. You're never alone. And you know what? It's going to be okay. I promise you that. So have a great day, and we will talk to you tomorrow. And I don't even know who's going to be on yet tomorrow. I've still got to work on scheduling. So got to catch up with things a little bit. So have a great day.